there's something interesting happening in the world of motorbikes, guys. A lot of the manufacturers are coming out with parallel twins, and they are filling their parallel twins to just about everything, which is just the way that the world is going at the moment. It's the flavor. You would have seen last month, Sean went along to the launch of this very motorcycle, the 750 Hornet, and then the Trans.
Well, it was actually a Trans-Alp, and this just happened to be there.
No, this one just happened to be. So it actually hasn't been to the launch yet. This is a pre-launch tour, so to speak. So yeah. And you came away suitably impressed. You're better qualified to talk about it than any of us. But what we've done is we've approached Honda. We've said, guys, can we borrow it? We're going to take it out in the real world. And to that end, Charlotte, tomorrow, you're going to take it for a lacquer ride. Charlotte's from Pretoria. He's taking it from Pretoria out to the Red Star racetrack. Red Star is actually having a safety initiative. Is that right?
Yeah, safety day.
Lacquer. So it's not a track day per se, but it's going to be, you're going to do a few laps around the track. Carl, you collected it yesterday. You've done maybe 50 kilometers on the bike.
Yeah.
Please, can I have your initial opinion?
I was very surprised. It's completely different to the Trans-Alp, even though they share the same platform.
Yeah.
At first I found, we'll talk about the Trans-Alp another, but I was waiting for it to be a little bit tamer than the Trans-Alp, but it was the complete opposite. Yet they, as Sean will tell you, they're like identical motorcycles.
All right.
It was fun to ride. It really is, I don't want to say a hooligan bike, because they're not aiming it as a hooligan machine.
Yeah.
But if you ride it like a hooligan, you can have a lot of fun. Put it in user mode, set the power, engine braking, traction control off, and before you know it, second gear, you're on the back wheel, cruising through town. Overall, I mean, I'd like to really go and play with it some more.
Well, that's exactly what we've got it here for. Sean, you did a few laps around the track on it. Is that right?
Yeah, we probably spent about 40 minutes on the track, so about a session around the track. So something Carl's saying earlier on, and it alludes to the production costs. This is almost identical platform to the Trans-Alp. It runs the same chassis and subframe, which are all welded together. It runs the same exhaust pipe, it runs the same engine, it runs the same electronics package, headlights, taillights, just about everything except for the wheels, the suspension. The swing arm's the same, the exhaust is the same. And the reason they do that is not only for production costs, but it's also for stocking parts.
Makes a lot of sense.
So you don't have to stock 4 different types of oil filters or 4 different types of air filters. It's all the same air filter or the same oil filter. The only difference on the chassis is where the gear lever mounts onto the frame. There's a small difference between this and the Trans-Alp.
Okay, interesting.
But the motor is as willing as I found the Trans-Alp. I mean, we rode the Trans-Alp probably about 200 k's dirt and road, tarmac, to Red Star, and then about 100 k's back to where we were staying for the night. And then we spent 40 minutes on the track for this. Climbing off the Trans-Alp, this is smaller, more compact than the Trans-Alp. The Trans-Alp's got wider handlebars, higher, and etc.
Well, that kind of makes sense. This is a street bike.
This is a street bike,
100%. And it's not top heavy.
Probably got a bigger tank as well.
Yeah, and this has also got 17-inch wheels as opposed to 18s and 21s. So that does make a difference.
Now, let me talk to you on that quickly. So Carl was talking about how perky this thing feels relative to the Trans-Alp. And I said, well, it's got to be the gearing. I said, no, identical gearing.
Yeah.
So instead of playing with your gears, your wheels act as a big gear, and that lets you accelerate or whatever you
The one thing that would transform this motorcycle, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, the one thing that would transform is to put a quick shift.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, you ride it and...
well, let's talk about electronics. It doesn't have a quick shift, which is a shame. I think
they are aftermarket, though. They are available aftermarket. They're available.
It's got the typical Honda electronics in it. I mean, it's the only brand where you can set your engine braking. It comes off the Africa Twin. You can set the engine braking in 3 different modes. So you can set your power modes. Again, within your user mode, you've got 3 different power modes, but you've also got range, sport, and street. So it's quite a package just on your power mode and your power delivery on it. Then you can choose to have traction control on, or 1 and 2, or 3.
That's brilliant. And this is one on what is essentially kind of not a top of the range motorbike, it's kind of a mid-range motorcycle. So it's got feature for feature, it's got a lot. We've all ridden the old 600 with the 4 cylinders. The fact is, we're moving away from 4 cylinders, which is a shame, especially to the older school riders like us. But it is the way forward, and I think it's in terms of the cost to build it, in terms of EU homologations and all that sort of stuff.
Emission controls.
That's what's hitting us. But what we need to know is it comfortable? Is it fun? And is it a bike for the masses? And just looking at it, I mean, how flippin' gorgeous is this thing?
The one thing you mentioned about the four bangers versus the two is have a look at the size of the motor.
Yeah.
Everything is going smaller,
compact.
so it's a lot more compact. So, you know, when you guys grew up with your big 4 cylinders and all this stuff, yeah, I'm growing up, okay, it was the 2 strokes, the TZs and everything, but now you got the small little motor. It's not this big cumbersome thing underneath you. So it makes for a lot lighter, easier riding opposed to chugging. Yes, in the big thousands you want that big bang, you know, but
also the other thing you mentioned earlier is going from 4 cylinders down to 2 cylinders and Charlotte saying those screamers and etc. This screams as well. You're in 6th gear and you need to get your hustle on. Drop it back 2 gears down to 4th. And this thing revs up and takes off like you cannot believe it. So that's an amazing little motor there. Honda have got this motor right. It's dialed in like you can't believe it. It is really, really good. And chuck on a quick shifter, which is available aftermarket. They got them for the Transalps. We had the one Transalp with the quick shifter. Completely different motorcycles.
What is the cost, guys? 100 and?
179,999.
It seems to be a lot of bike for you, man. I love the attention to detail. I mean, big front brakes, twin stop pedals, it's top of the line. Check how they've anodized the suspension.
To match the frame.
It's non-adjustable, but they've made it all blend in, which is really beautiful. Showa suspension is always top of the line. It's really, really good. And all in, I think it's a very pretty package. LED lights all around. You mentioned something like self-cancelling indicators. That's something.
No, it's a silly little thing, but it drives me absolutely insane. You're riding along behind somebody.
Yeah.
We all do it.
And the worst when we're taking photos, turn your indicator off. So
and this is such a simple system, and there's a lot of simple systems available on the market that are cheap to install on motorcycles these days. That I'm surprised that not every motorcycle comes with all these little. They're cheap little gadgets.
Keep costs down.
But they're cheap little gadgets.
But you should have them anyway because they're mass produced.
Yeah.
So that's your job. What a job for the weekend. How's it? Nice weekend?
Awesome.
All right. Where did you go?
We went to Red Star.
Ma'am, were you on the back the whole way through?
Yes.
What was it like being a Pillion on this motor?
Extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
The little bump on the seat, you don't slide forward. I never felt any bumps on the road.
So good suspension for the Pillion.
Yeah.
All right, and then tell me a little bit about relation from pegs to bum to shoulders. Very often we see ladies and passengers on the back of bikes and they're all kind of twisted up like this. Did you feel like a pretzel?
Sit upright? No.
So it's comfortable.
Very comfortable.
That's important these days, especially with a motorcycle like this. So Shada, I'm going to ask you the question. Am I correct in saying this is a commuter motorcycle?
That as well.
Okay, as well. It's more than just commuter. So Honda's got their NC750. Am I right? This is one up from there. Is that correct?
That's it. So they've taken that NC base to produce like the design philosophy.
Yeah.
And dumped a lot more power on it.
Okay.
It's given it everything that the NC doesn't have.
Okay, brilliant. So this has got heaps of personality. It handles well, and I mean, you said you took it around to the track. Shada, would you mind just by putting in the disclaimer for Honda, sir, we owe you new foot pegs?
Yeah, hero vlog.
Well, that's excellent. That's what it's all about. So there's just the proof is in the pudding. Tell me a little bit about suspension and handling, please.
Off the bat, 1 up or 2 up, it works like an absolute charm. It's got excellent feedback. Road manners are fantastic.
Okay.
Obviously, with any naked bike, when you're getting at speed, you know, the wind buffets you and it tends to get a little bit loose.
Of course.
But not severe at all. So if you relax your grip, it tracks perfectly.
Okay, excellent. Then you did a little bit of setup for the track.
No.
You didn't, you rode it as it was?
Just like this.
Okay.
You can't really adjust the suspension in the front.
Yeah.
Really, you can do pre-light, but
okay.
It wasn't necessary. It was off the bat excellent.
Okay, brilliant. Now, one thing we did just touch on briefly when we did the intro was 4-cylinder versus parallel twin. Does it require a 4-cylinder engine?
I've been converted.
Tell us about the parallel twin.
This 270 offset, so it's common with the
Transalp?
the Transalp, the Hornet, the Africa Twin, and the NC.
Right.
So it gives you the characteristics of a single,
Okay.
but it revs like a multi-cylinder.
Okay.
So this is like an NC that's been given a CRF cylinder head. It's got the Hooligan head,
Okay.
which is phenomenal. It actually sounds like a CRF when it's running. And you can hear the factory top end. It revs out to about 10.5, 11,000 RPM.
On a parallel trip. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And at a 270-degree offset, it's stupid. I mean, if you think a NC maxes out at like 6,000 RPM.
Yeah.
An extra 4,000 RPM on that
makes a huge difference. That's where all the personality.
and the torque curve is from the bottom up to the top.
That's excellent. And I understand we were talking a little bit off camera that you got to 120 k's an hour. Were you comfortable on the back?
Comfortable.
Okay. A little bit more than that, hey? What sort of top speed did you run to?
It can see 200 back.
200 k's an hour? 2 up. That's mighty impressive. So all in closing, Hornet, great value for money, goodbye.
I don't know why you don't have one yet.
Carl, your immediate impression of this bike?
I like the sharp styling. It gives it a very aggressive look and feel.
It's quite an aggressive looking bike without being overly macho or overly butch, if I want to put it like that. It's modern styling with something that would be equally at home running around the city streets and also cruising around the track.
Well, look, I mean, we had it for a couple of days now. I didn't take it on the track the other day, but I'm starting to feel a bit sorry I didn't, because around town and that, I'm having an absolute ball. We speak about the parallel twin and everything. Are you going to be converted from a 4-cylinder to a parallel twin? It's very simple. Ride this bike and you'll understand it.
100%. This bike's power and performance and the stability of the chassis and the stability of the suspension. And what I do is I keep it pinned and I fan the clutch. And this thing picked up onto its back wheel with me, and it was just so stable. It's just such a stable bike to ride. You spent the whole day on the back wheel.
Look, the package all in all is a very good, stable, steady package. It's not too harsh that it's uncomfortable. It's got the right amount of flex for what this bike's purpose is.
So you happy with the bike?
Yeah.
I'm happy with the bike. We've been cruising around town. I reckon on an open road, maybe it might get a little bit tiresome in the heavy wind the whole time, being a naked bike, as most naked bikes do. But I don't think you gave any mechanical sympathy.
It's strong. The motor's very strong.
It's ridiculously strong. It's naughty.
I've had an absolute jaw. Like you say, it's found the back wheel more often than not.
Yeah.
The front wheel, it's seen some action too.
The thing that really surprised me, for such a diminutive, small little bike, and my 2 meter tall, 115 kilogram chassis, is the ergonomics and the cockpit layout. I thought with the small narrow bars and the low seat height and the fairly high pegs, I thought I was going to be cramped up and really crammed into this bike. I was surprisingly comfortable, but whipping through traffic is where this bike came into its own. The narrow handlebars, the narrow little parallel twin motor really gives you that agility through traffic, and the suspension is not vague, but it's not sharp either. It's confidence inspiring in the way that it twists. You
know exactly what's happening underneath you, and I think that's the one thing. I mean, it's got Michelin rubber on it as well, which also helps with that as well. So you've got the suspension, and the tires complement the suspension. The ergonomics on it, you sit, it's comfortable. Although it is a small bike, like you say, you think you're going to feel crammed up, but you're not. Overall, you aren't going to be racing down to Cape Town on this bike. But what you are going to do is you're going to race from here to Sandton or Fourways, and you're going to race back, and every oak you see, it's going to be a race.
Low in torque. I mean, it's 75 Newton meters of torque. You feel that torque. And I also felt my backside up against the bump stop here quite a bit off that torque. And then we get up to 90 horsepower, which is about 67.5 kilowatts. And this bike works at the top end as well. Now, you've got all that speed and all that power and all that acceleration, but somehow you've got to stop it.
Yeah, the brakes are really, really good. One thing I did notice is it almost gives you a slipper clutch feel when you drop a couple of gears and you let that clutch go.
It's got a slipper clutch built into it.
And it's that to me is it was the most fun I've had in a long time. Yes, you shouldn't be doing it on the road, but damn, it's fun. 180 grand. You've really got a bike that can go get milk on. You can go race your buddy on a Sunday to Hartley's. And if you really want to go race, put your leathers on, go scrape your knee, and you're going to have fun throughout.
Guys, get down to your local Honda dealer. They've got demos of these bikes. You really, really, really want to have a ride on one of these.